Hollywood, 1968. A private gym in the hills of Los Angeles. It's not an ordinary gym. It's the place where action stars train far from the cameras, where stunt doubles perfect their falls, where the martial artists who appear in movies come to remember that they are more than just actors. The floor is covered with thick mats. The walls have mirrors that reflect every movement, every mistake, every moment of truth. In one corner, a boxing bag hangs motionless. In another, Chinese wooden dummies wait to be struck. The air smells of old sweat and new leather. There are no spectators here. Here there are only warriors. Chuck Norris is 28 years old. He has just won his 4th World Karate Championship. He is the most feared man in the United States tournament circuit. He stands 1 meter 80, weighs 90 kilos of functional muscle, has hands that have broken boards, ribs, and egos alike. His spinning kick is legendary. Competitors fear it even before stepping onto the mat. Chuck has fought against the best in the world and defeated them all. Everyone, without exception. In his mind, there is no one who could defeat him in a real fight. No one on planet Earth. Bruce Lee is 27 years old. He stands 1 meter 70, weighs 61 kilos. In the numbers, he is significantly smaller than Chuck. On paper, he shouldn't be a threat. Bruce has just landed his first major role in The Green Hornet, playing Kato. He is not yet the legend the world will come to know. He hasn't filmed Enter the Dragon yet. He hasn't changed martial arts forever yet. But something about him is already different. Something that Chuck can sense even before seeing him move. They meet at a karate tournament in Long Beach. Chuck is there as the champion. Bruce is there as a special guest, giving a demonstration of something he calls Jeet Kune Do. Chuck watches from the stands. He sees this small man move in ways that defy what Chuck knows about martial arts. He sees speed that shouldn't be possible. He sees precision that seems supernatural. He sees something he has never seen before in any opponent. After the demonstration, someone introduces them. Bruce shakes Chuck's hand with a genuine smile. He says he has heard a lot about him, that he admires his work, that he would like to train together someday. Chuck agrees, but inside he feels something strange. Something he hasn't felt in years. Something that dangerously resembles fear. The training sessions begin a week later. At first they are cordial. 2 professionals exchanging techniques, comparing styles, learning from each other. Chuck shows his traditional karate, his perfect forms, his kicks that can break concrete blocks. Bruce shows his different approach, his philosophy of using what works and discarding what doesn't, his obsession with efficiency over aesthetics. In the early sessions they maintain courtesy. They don't go at full speed. They don't try to hurt each other. They are martial actors after all, and movies require intact faces and functional bodies. But even in these gentle exchanges, Chuck notices something disturbing. Bruce is faster, significantly faster. His strikes arrive before Chuck can see them coming. His defenses are in position before Chuck completes his attacking movement. One day, Bruce suggests they increase the intensity. He says he wants to see what Chuck can really do. Chuck agrees, feeling that this is his chance to prove his superiority. He is a world champion after all. He has defeated everyone. Bruce Lee is just an actor with some impressive skills, nothing more. The first 30 seconds change everything. Chuck launches his famous spinning kick, the same one that has knocked down dozens of opponents in tournaments. Bruce is not there. He has moved 6 inches to the right, and the kick passes through where his head was a moment ago. Before Chuck can recover his balance, he feels a strike to the ribs. Not hard, calculated. Bruce could have hurt him but chose not to. Chuck understands the message. Bruce is completely controlling the fight. The next 60 seconds are a lesson in humility that Chuck will never forget. Every technique he has perfected over a decade of training is neutralized. Every strategy he has used to defeat world champions is anticipated and countered. Bruce moves like water around rocks. Chuck is the rock. Strong, solid, but unable to hit something that flows around him. After 2 minutes, Bruce stops. He smiles, not with arrogance, but with genuine respect. He says that Chuck is very good, that his technique is impeccable, that in a tournament with rules he would be almost invincible. But then he adds something that Chuck will need 40 years to fully understand. He says that in a real fight, without rules, without points, without referees, perfect technique is not enough. He says that in a real fight, the one who can adapt fastest wins. Chuck spends the following weeks training with Bruce regularly. Each session reveals more about the gap between them. It's not just speed, though Bruce's speed is supernatural. It's something deeper. It's the ability to read the opponent's body, to predict movements before they happen, to always be one step ahead. Chuck has trained his body for years. Bruce has trained his mind to control his body in ways that defy normal understanding. One night, after a particularly intense session, Chuck asks Bruce directly. He asks what would happen if they fought for real, without restraint, without professional courtesy. A real fight until one of them could no longer continue. Bruce doesn't answer immediately. He sits on a mat, looks at the gym ceiling, considers the question seriously. Finally, he says he doesn't want to find out. He says that Chuck is his friend, that he respects his skill, that he sees no value in destroying that friendship to prove a point. Chuck insists. He wants to know. He needs to know. Bruce looks him directly in the eyes and says something that Chuck will remember for the rest of his life. He says that in a real fight, without rules, it would end in seconds. He says he doesn't say it with arrogance. He says it as an objective fact. He says that Chuck's speed is impressive for a man of his size, but that he can throw a full punch and retract it before the human eye can register it. He says he has measured the speed of his strikes and that they travel too fast for the human nervous system to react in time. Chuck should feel offended. He should defend his record, his championships, his decade of domination in the world of competitive karate. But he can't. Because he has been training with Bruce for weeks. He has seen what Bruce can do. He has felt those strikes that come from nowhere. He has experienced the frustration of launching perfect techniques that never reach their target. Chuck knows Bruce is right. The years pass. Chuck makes movies. Bruce revolutionizes action cinema and then dies far too young in 1973. Chuck builds a legendary career, becomes a pop culture icon, inspires generations of martial artists. But he never forgets those training sessions. He never forgets what Bruce taught him about the limits of his own training. He never forgets the fear he felt when he realized there was someone in the world who could completely defeat him. 40 years later, in an interview, someone asks Chuck about Bruce Lee. They ask if they ever fought for real. Chuck pauses for a long time. He looks at the camera. And finally he tells the truth he has kept for decades. He says he was afraid to fight Bruce Lee for real. He says that admitting it now, after all these years, after all the movies where he has played the invincible hero, is difficult. But it is the truth. He explains that the fear was not irrational. The fear was based on direct experience. He had trained with Bruce for hundreds of hours. He had felt his speed, his power, his supernatural precision. He knew exactly what Bruce could do, and he knew he had no answer for it. Chuck says that Bruce Lee was the only person he had ever met who could make his lifetime of training feel inadequate. The only person who could move so fast that the techniques Chuck had perfected simply didn't work. But then Chuck says something more, something that transforms this admission of fear into something different. He says that the fear he felt toward Bruce Lee was the most valuable gift he ever received. He says that before meeting Bruce, he believed he had reached the limit of what was possible. He believed he was the best and that there was nothing more to learn. Bruce showed him he was wrong. Bruce showed him that there is always someone better, always something new to learn, always a way to improve. Chuck says that after Bruce's death, he dedicated years to studying his philosophy. He read his writings on Jeet Kune Do. He understood that Bruce wasn't simply practicing a different martial art. Bruce was questioning the very nature of what it meant to fight, what it meant to move, what it meant to be a martial artist. Bruce didn't blindly follow traditions. Bruce took what worked and discarded what didn't, no matter what style it came from, no matter how many centuries of tradition it had behind it. This philosophy changed Chuck forever. It made him a better fighter, a better teacher, a better person. It made him humble in ways that his championships never could. Because it's easy to be arrogant when you're winning. It's easy to believe you're the best when no one has proven otherwise. But when someone clearly shows you there are levels above you, you have two choices. You can resent that lesson, or you can embrace it and use it to grow. Chuck chose to grow. And that choice, more than any championship, more than any movie, more than any perfect spinning kick, defines who he really is. Chuck says in the interview that it took him 40 years to publicly admit he was afraid of Bruce Lee. But that every one of those 40 years was informed by that fear. Every improvement he made to his technique, every book he wrote about martial arts, every student he trained, everything was influenced by the lesson Bruce taught him without words, simply by moving in ways that Chuck couldn't match. The interview ends with Chuck looking directly at the camera. He says that if Bruce Lee were alive today, he would thank him. He would thank him for the fear. He would thank him for showing him his limits. He would thank him for teaching him that being the best at something doesn't mean you finished learning. He says that the fear he felt in that gym in 1968 was the beginning of an education that lasted a lifetime. And then Chuck says something that sums it all up. He says that people remember Bruce Lee for his movies, for his speed, for his battle cries, for his impressive physique. But Chuck remembers him for something different. He remembers him as the only man he ever met who could make a world champion feel fear. And he remembers him as the only man who used that power not to destroy, but to teach. Because Bruce never humiliated Chuck. He never mocked him. He never rubbed his superiority in his face. Bruce simply was who he was, moved as he moved, and let the truth speak for itself. And that truth, that silent lesson that took 40 years to fully process, was the most valuable gift Chuck Norris ever received from another martial artist. Fear, it turns out, is not always weakness. Sometimes it is the first step toward wisdom. Sometimes it is the signal that you have found someone from whom you can learn. Sometimes it is exactly what you need to feel to realize that the journey has only just begun. Chuck Norris was afraid to fight Bruce Lee, and that fear made him better than any victory ever could have.